Hey everyone, it's Corey with Blue Falcon Board Gaming. If you're new to the channel, I'm a United States Marine Corps veteran that started the Blue Falcon Board Gaming channel in the Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia tri-state area with the hopes of promoting positive mental health through board gaming, as well as to make board games more accessible to the community by hosting and co-hosting free events. Today, I am joined by Paul Neufeldt. He is the designer of Shards of Alchemy, which is currently on Kickstarter. Paul, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here, and it's really been a pleasure to meet you and other TikTok people. I've really gotten into it. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
So
the TikTok board game community is fantastic if nobody's on
they,
there.
I cannot praise them enough. They are so great. So I really appreciate. Very supportive, and yeah, I look forward to joining in and supporting the rest of you guys as well. Absolutely, it's been great.
Yeah. So who's Paul outside of board gaming, outside of TikTok, all of that? What's a normal day look
Um,
like for you, or what's your background?
I am a managing editor at a newspaper conglomerate for a day job, and then I also do freelance graphic design, freelance editing, and other projects when I have time. Currently, it's just my Kickstarter, and I joke that it's my number one job, and my normal day job is my number two job at this point.
So, what was your introduction into board games? How did you get into the whole hobby of gaming and then transferring into modern gaming?
I had an interesting upbringing. My parents didn't like us to watch TV, and so we got into books. And then later, it was natural to get into something like board games. I consider board games kind of book adjacent. They use a lot of the same faculties. And me and my older brother in particular played a lot of games. We we would sit down and play board games, and then we got into RPGs, Dungeons and Dragons, and and once I got into it, I was hooked. And then, of course, I come from an art and creative writing background, so I immediately started thinking about their mechanics and and just started like playing around. Any game that I had, I would play around with the rules and start working on house rules and stuff, um, because it was fun.
Yeah, DG just posted a video last night. Like, if you could change one thing about a game, what would you change? And he'd said that he would take out the robber from Catan. And I'd said that
Yeah.
instead of taking out the robber, roll three die instead of two, and you get to choose which two of those three dice you use. That way, it offers a little bit more strategy. Is there any other games that you remember
Oh.
tweaking the rules and what those were by chance?
Oh yeah. So my number one example is, I don't know if you've played Arkham Horror, the tabletop game, the
I was gonna say
board
board or
full
card.
size board game. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that game is visually amazing. Its big flaw is that the table time, the run time, is really high. It takes hours, and especially if you have a lot of players. But it's a really cool cooperative game. And so what I did is I found the original artwork, and I took all the rules text, and I did a home build of the entire rule book. Also, I could get it to like run in half the time that it normally would. I just changed the rule set, and it was mostly about the way that they end the move like prematurely instead of just using all your actions. And then I got rid of one of the turns. They had like four phases or something. I got rid of one of those, and it played so much better. It was way more fun. I mean, if anybody wants a copy of it, I can send them a PDF. It was just, yeah, it was a big improvement. And that was definitely one of those things that got me even more into board game design too, because when my friends saw that, they're like, "Well, why don't you just make your own game?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've got a bunch of stuff." So that's very true. I should not only make my own game, but get it published as well. So that was motivational. Yeah, there's been a bunch of stuff like that, but that one, I like to go back to it and play it again with that new rule set. There's like a rampage thing at the end where where the big boss, instead of just fighting him on a fight card, he's like actually running around the town smashing stuff and generating monsters. So yeah, I have a lot of fun with that stuff.
Yeah. So at what point, so you kind of touched on it a little bit there. At what point where you're like, oh, I'm going to start working on this game, Shards of Alchemy? And, what was the kind of whole process behind that leading up to where we're at now with it?
Yeah, that was probably about the point where I started on it. Was when I did that redesign of Arkham Horror, and and the background for that is one. I'm really into art and writing, but in particular, I'm really into geometry and architecture. Um, and so the thing about this game is it's also the box like pops open, lays flat. That idea was like really, it just really caught my imagination. And then the shape of the cards, I always intended them to work in some sort of a hex form, to be a piece of a hex, right? So a shard of a hex. And this is the starting point. And my idea is to build a game that has room for some really cool expansions that get into the hex form. Like, you're not only doing an economy game, which is what Shards is, a really good uh, economy game that has lots of interactions. You're also like generating or building something substantial, and you could get very thematic with that.
Okay. So do you want to kind
Mm-hmm.
of go over what the game looks like? Maybe, the setup, the opening hand,
Oh,
what
sure.
a player can do on their turn.
Yeah, yeah. So the way it works is you open the box. There's a card stand in the middle, or a card holder in the middle, and then the deck is already there, and you have 6 discards around the stand, and you start the initiative by drawing a card, and whoever has the highest value starts the game. And you're also at the same time you're doing the setup. So the idea is that you get into the game immediately, and within a few seconds you're in play. And so the idea is that this is a travel game, because you could sit down, break it out, get into it, and just play through a game with by yourself or with some other people anytime. So yeah. Oh, thank you. There it is. The the box itself is the thing that captured the most attention, but the way that the cards interact. So you're drawing from the deck. You're also optionally drawing from the discards, and the discards are always full. If they empty, you just fill them. Drop a card in there again from the deck. And when you're buying cards, because you're either drawing or buying, it's designed to be very straightforward, very simple that way. When you're buying cards, you discard back onto those piles. So you're changing what is available to buy again. You're changing the terrain every time. And if you're playing other people, you can really mess with them, because you can be watching what they're going for, and you can cover it up. Or you could draw it and just take it away from them entirely. Um, so yeah, the interaction is a lot of fun. And you actually can draw from the top 6 on the deck. So you can actually dig into the deck. There's subtleties, like when you put those cards back on the deck, there's no rule against changing the order. So if a card drops off the top into a discard, it could be one that you want to fall into that place. There's other things like that where I didn't make a rule, because I want people to discover the like subtle little things they can do to benefit their play, you know. So
Yeah, I love those type of gray areas. Like I always joke,
yeah,
I'm like, play in
leave
the
them
gray.
open. Yeah, create like it's not loopholes, but it's just like little kind of Easter egg free things you can do. Yeah, exactly. And let people discover those. And I've had people play it, and I mention that, and they're like, I don't know how that would benefit me. And then later they're like, oh, I see. Maybe I demonstrate like how it would actually benefit them. Um, And then the cards are also pretty cool in the fact that one, their shape is very economic on table space, and if they're held in hand, you can fan them out, and you just see all the stuff you need to see is along the left and the top portion of the card, and you can stack them up. They don't take up a lot of space on the table. You can see the Harlequin pattern you can create, because all you need to see is like that little dot point value at the top when you stack them up. And then I have this mat off to the side where you keep your loose draws before they're purchased or used for a purchase, so that everything's well organized. And then there's 4 levels of play. It was 3, but I added 1 because as we were playing it, I realized that I wanted to make this something that people that weren't even into board games could get into. So I made like an introductory level where you do some very simple interactions, but there's like little tricks you can play that make it its own like very interesting game. So the cards are mostly played face down. You're not looking at the values for the most part, the costs. But the way you draw off the deck, as things drop, you get to peek at them and decide if you want to swap one for one, that kind of thing. So, and that's the idea of like having an onion sort of level of complexity. So if you have 4 levels of play and each one just adds a little bit, then you can get into one, and then you just add that that one rule, and it makes the game a little more complicated but a lot more interesting. And then you can take it all the way up to like the master level, the advanced level, has some really cool things that boost the potential point values you can get, that really make you think a little more, you know. So the idea is that it hits those same triggers you get in like a good video game, where you're like the challenge like entices you in. So not just inside the game as it accelerates the economy engine, but also as you progress into higher levels of play in other game formats within the game system.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the OP, they did that with Disney Sorcerer Arena Epic Alliances. So the rule
Yeah.
book is built into chapters, and it's meant for, hey, if you've got little kids playing, start with chapter 1. Once
Yeah.
they get all of these rules down, okay, now we're going to introduce, outside of the standard attack, standard moves, this is how you can
Yeah.
boost those things. And then, the third chapter, hey, this is how you do your upgrade part, and you're exiling discarded cards to unlock special powers. So, like,
Yeah.
I like games that have that progression of, if you're playing
Yeah.
with somebody that may be super young or they've never played board games before, hey, here's the rule set for that, super, streamlined, slimmed down. And then once they get
Hmm.
into it, here's how to get them into the heavier meat of the game.
Exactly. And if you're into advanced board games only, it's a good way to learn the rules, because you can just like learn a portion of them, and then you know you could sit down with the game not knowing anything with new players and actually get into it, because that can be a problem when you break out a new game and nobody knows the game yet. And then there's that dead time where you're trying to learn the rules. It's like, I think that a lot of game designers should think about that. Think about that digestion of the game, and just break those rules into a series that's instructive. I really like that example that you brought up. Um, and also make it accessible for kids, because kids that learn board games are very smart and very capable, and those are life skills that they can do a lot with, way better than a lot of other ways that you can try and improve their intelligence and strategic thinking. So I
Oh yeah,
mean,
yeah. My daughter, she's about to turn 6 in January, and since she was like 2.5, 3, like she's been at least messing
yeah,
around with board games with me. And I have a video of her. We were playing Dragon's Breath from Haba,
Mm-hmm.
and she was like 3 in the video, and she's just
Wow.
counting, and she's like 37, 38, 39. And
Yeah.
I'm like, what
See.
3-year-old counting up into the 40s? So whenever she started
Yeah.
kindergarten, they were like, hey, her first 9 weeks, she needs to be able to count to 25. I'm like, oh, we're
Oh,
we're solid. Like,
she did that. She did that a while back. Yeah. It's like my view. It sounds like you agree with us. Like my view is there should be certain board games that are just part of the school curriculum. Like bring those out, put them on the table, let the kids use them. If a game involves math, it's like, okay, we're gonna spend part of the class doing the boring math stuff, but we're gonna spend most of it playing this game that actually gets into the functionality of it, and then you can also use that to show like basic this one for instance, it shows basic economic skills. So how to leverage, how to buy, um, how to get a feel for advantage as it comes up, and those skills are invaluable. And like put that in the school, kids would look forward to going to school if they could play games, half the time that were related to the topics, instead of schools weren't really designed to be fun. They were designed to get people into the workforce, you know. Um, but we could do better. Absolutely. That is, I have a very strong feeling about it. I have a lot of friends that are in education, and we definitely have this conversation a lot. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's just the gamification of education. It's,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be more likely to pay attention and be engaged and stuff if you're having fun versus if it's just somebody like, hey, you have to sit here for 6 to 8 hours a day
Yeah.
and look at this board or this
Yeah.
book, whatever. But if you can actually do it and you get that tactile of your moving pieces on top of that,
Oh,
but
yeah.
yeah, I
And
mean,
they're
we
gonna.
played.
Yeah.
There were other kids that had showed up to a demo one time, and they were about the same age as my daughter, and then one was kind of older, not a whole lot, probably a year and a half,
Mm-hmm.
and just the difference between them in terms of attention span, me telling them
Yeah.
the rules, and then like her going with it, and the other one's like still like it was labyrinth.
Yeah.
And it's like they were pushing the
Oh, yeah.
piece in, but they wanted to start from the middle. And I'm like, no, you pick from the side and then you have to push the entire row. Like you can't just swap. And he's like, well, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, well, that's the rule of the game.
Yeah. You
And I
follow the
was
rules of the
like,
game. You know.
yeah, I was like, she has ruined my expectation of what a 5-year old can do.
It's scary. I was at a game store showing some people my game, and there was a kid there. He was like, I think he was like 7 years old, and he was playing Magic the Gathering with his dad. And yeah, he was scary smart because his dad got him into this stuff early, and he immediately, like, he absorbed the rules of my game like immediately. It's like they're kids that are brought up with this, like that age. It's supposed to be like 13 or higher on a game like this, that kind of thing. Those kids, like a 7-year-old, can play it if they're brought up with that. And let's bring them up that way. Absolutely. Makes the whole
It
society
can get
better.
dangerous though at times because
Yeah.
we were at Walmart and we had just been the day before and she had just got a toy, right?
Yeah.
So we go to Walmart for I think I needed like something small. I don't remember what it was. It was like super insignificant. And she was like, "Can I get a toy?" And I'm like, "No, you don't need a toy every time you come to Walmart." Well, then we were walking down the board game aisle, and she's like, "You don't need a board game every time you come to Walmart."
Yeah.
So we both left with. She left with a toy. I left with a board game.
Yeah.
But
You
I'm just
can't
like,
argue. You can't argue with that
Walmart.
logic. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, yeah, you got me. The, I can't refute that.
Yeah, yeah. But it'll be good. She'll be nice and independent by the time she's a teenager.
Yeah. I've got a niece that's in college. She's going to one of the big colleges on the East Coast now. I'm in Oregon, um, and she was brought up with this kind of upbringing, and she is crazy smart. Um, it's really impressive, like watching that kid become an adult and attaining their potential. Yeah, you're gonna have some really awesome kids when they get older. I mean, they're already awesome, but they're gonna be awesome adults too. That's for sure.
Yeah, my one buddy, him and his wife both were teachers, and he's super big into like D&D, Dungeon Crawl Classic, you
Yeah.
know, RPGs like that and board games. So from like the time that the kids have been like 4, they've been playing RPGs and stuff.
Wow.
And now, one, she's about to finish up with her degree in some sort of engineering. I forget which
Hmm.
specific one. I think it was electrical engineering, but she's already getting like crazy job offers.
Yeah.
And then his son, he works for the state, and he goes out and he makes sure that like contracted projects have been completed and that like they're up to code and all of this other stuff. And it's just like, he's like, yeah, they've just been playing RPGs since they were like 4 or 5. So
Yeah, and RPGs, they teach you the fundamentals of social skills, which those social interactions are important for everything, right? So they teach you a lot of things, and of course, math. Yeah, I love RPGs. I'm developing a sci-fi RPG as well. I got a ton of games I've been making, but yeah, I just love that. And for kids that are a little shyer, it gets them the fundamentals of social interaction, which we're a social species. Uh, we need to get along together, and that does a great job. Yeah, and it's fun. I mean, it's fun for anytime it's fun for a kid. They're gonna remember it. It's gonna be set in stone.
oh yeah, every night it's, daddy, let's play this game. So
Hmm.
it's fun.
Yeah.
So I just realized I still had your page up here. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. So you are about $900 shy right now of hitting your goal with 9 days to go. So that's
Right.
looking pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna do a big push. I've sent this game out to a bunch of people previously before the Kickstarter and a little bit as it started, and I'm gonna talk to everybody uh, about in the next couple of days over the weekend. Just getting the word out again, uh, doing some fresh buzz, and just letting people know because I know it's a good game, but the first time doing a Kickstarter and developing those connections where people know what this game is, and that get it out into the social matrix. Um, takes some work to get there. So it's kind of an underdog because I know it's a great game, but people just need to hear about it. So that's the critical part.
Right. Who are you going through with manufacturing?
There's a really good company back east. I've got a broker that luckily I had a. He's now a friend of mine, but he just randomly ran into my social media and really liked what he saw, and he's like, I want to help you. What he does is connect with manufacturers. That's what he does for a living, so he knows everything about all the materials and everything for games, and he has all these connections. So he shopped around and he found a company. I forget the name of it, but it's back. It's probably one of the ones in China, but luckily we're past COVID, so we don't have to worry about the shipping issues. um,
Right.
so yeah, and the nice thing about this game is it weighs a little under a pound, and it's not like it's everything. It's dense, so it doesn't take up a lot of room. So for shipping, it's not a hog. So that's helpful as well.
Yeah,
So yeah,
as I've been looking into it for mine, it seems like obviously the weight plays a big factor, but
yeah,
also how tall it is.
yes,
It seems
yes.
like the more that they can stack, the better the rates and everything, which makes sense, if you're trying to condense it into the smallest
Hmm.
area as possible.
Yeah, so they have what a carton will have so many of the games in a box, basically, of the games when they're shipping. And for mine, it's 16 in a carton is the standard. For a bigger box game, you might just have like 4 or something, right? So, yeah, these little things, like you have to consider them. And then also a bigger game is going to take up more room in storage. Like, where you're going to store it, if it's big enough, you're going to have somebody just deal with the distribution and storage of the game. So I definitely recommend starting with something smaller that you can work with, and you can just use your own space. And just I think it's a good place to get a foothold on the game design and the game distribution. So I got a bigger game uh, that's like a solar system game that I'll put out later, but I didn't want to do it first because I don't want to deal with all of that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the plan for me right now, whenever I do mine, like the Kickstarter is going to be relatively low because I've already taken out a loan large
Mm-hmm.
enough to cover all of that. So
Oh,
I'm
nice.
basically, pulling a CMON and using Kickstarter as more of a pre-order system or, an awareness type thing.
Oh,
Um,
good. That's really
so
smart.
I'm not too worried about, if the Kickstarter succeeds or fails because I know that I've got it to cover it already.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I would like to have, you know, product on the way before the Kickstarter even launches. That way, as soon as it's over, I can get everything
Oh,
shipped out. But
yeah, you
the
can
plan
fulfill
is,
it
yeah, just to
soon.
have it at the house, just have a
Yeah.
buddies come over. It's like, hey, y'all,
Yeah.
we're doing beer pizza and we're smacking some shipping labels on boxes all night.
There you go. No, that's great. That's great. You're strategically, that's really smart. And then you can set reasonable goals for your
Yeah.
Kickstarter. You could do a series of Kickstarters with smaller goals, that kind of thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, I think as long as I figured it up and as long as I did, I think like 250 backers on Kickstarter, then that would cover at least the manufacturing costs. That's not
Mm-hmm.
figuring in the art, the freight shipping, all of that. But the bulk of the expense is the manufacturing costs.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was
Yeah.
250 would cover that. So I'm like,
Huh.
okay, I feel confident about 250. Like moving a
Yeah.
thousand right off the rip. Yeah, I don't know, but like 250, I feel like that's achievable between Kickstarter and
Yeah.
then local sales and stuff like that. So
Yeah. I was shooting for 500, but I've gone back to address that, and I'm looking at reducing that number so that with the Kickstarter I can cover everything, like even the you get samples and there's setup fees and all that stuff, not just the core printing cost. So it's been an education, but I was like, we can get it down to the point where it's everything's covered, and you can fulfill your obligations without having to scramble, which is really important. So
yeah,
yeah, it's for anybody that's starting a Kickstarter, do your research. Definitely do your research and get yourself some really good connections. There's like 4 pillars of this game stuff. You need to design a good game. You need to get good marketing, and you need to do good production. And then, of course, you have to do distribution and sales. And it's like all of those things, like ideally you have somebody that's overseeing each of them, because you don't want to wear too many hats trying to do all of that. So yeah, um, distribution. I'm gonna get somebody else to help with that, because I'd rather be designing games than just doing the moving of them around out there. I'd rather start the next game and let somebody else handle that stuff. Yeah.
yeah. And if somebody is about to launch a Kickstarter or whatever, like, don't think you can just be like, oh, I can get all this done in a month. Like, you
Mm-mm.
need months of preparation to get
Right.
just people to notice it, building that
Right.
social
Yeah.
media
Yeah.
presence and everything else, talking about the game, like
Mm-hmm.
building up anticipation, making connections and stuff. Like it takes months.
Yeah, and I didn't start as early with that as I should have, but that's something that unless you know somebody that's telling you exactly how to do that, you learn it. You learn it in the process. So I've learned from this that you got to build. I just think of it as building the buzz. Like you got to build the buzz for this game. You have to get it out into the ethos or the into the matrix of people's thoughts that, oh yeah, there's this game, and then somebody mentions it and they go, yeah, I've heard of that, and it becomes like this force. And so by the time you hit the Kickstarter, those are the ones that meet their goals right away, because there's enough people that have already heard of it and they feel confident in it that they can just go and get it right away, and then everything else is a bonus. So yeah,
Yeah, a
it's
really good
amazing.
book has been
Mm.
Crowdfunder's Strategy Guide from
Oh
James
yes,
Stegmaier from Stonemaier Games. Granted,
amazing.
some of the stuff's a little dated in it, just because he did do this back in like
Hmm.
2013, maybe 2014, somewhere around in there.
Uh,
So some of the things that he brings up don't necessarily apply
they've
anymore, as far as
yeah.
like specifically, hey, this platform or anything.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah.
there's a ton of good information in it. And then he's got an entire blog series that's just a
Wow, that's
plethora
great.
of info for people.
Yeah, if you think about it, the process of making a game is like a game. Like there's all this strategy, leveraging, everything else. It's it's a whole process that that we have to learn, you know. And resources like that are really handy. Definitely do your research. Don't feel like you can just learn it all on the fly, or that you should have to. So there should be a course for this, like a college course. Like this is how you do
Right.
a Kickstarter. That would be a good course to take.
Oh, yeah. All right. So let's knock out some Family Feud fast money.
Oh yes, great.
The reigning champ is Jason from the Champion faction, and he's got 311. So
Mm.
we'll see if you can beat that.
Um, I'll give it a shot. Trivia is not
Give it
my
a shot.
strongest suit, but it's always fun. I enjoy this.
All right. So just to act like you got 20 seconds, we're not going to throw up an actual timer.
Oh,
So name
totally.
something with teeth.
Name something with teeth. A comb.
Okay. Name a building that has many beds in it.
Um, Hotel.
Okay. Name something that might cause you to panic if you could not get it open.
Hmm. What would it be? Shoot. Car door.
Okay. We'll count that one as that. Okay. Fill in the blank. So this is a fill in the blank one. Night blank. So NIGHT blank.
Nighttime.
Okay. And then name a reason someone's face may turn red.
Embarrassment.
All right. Not too bad. You got
Really?
239 overall. Yeah. So name something with teeth. Number one was animals, and then people, then comb, zipper, and saw.
Oh, okay.
Uh, building that has
Animal.
many
Yeah.
beds in it. It was hotel, hospital, dorm, military barracks.
Great.
Name something that might cause you to panic if you couldn't get it open. It was a door. This one's weird. Medicine slash Viagra, followed
Oh
by my
no.
zipper.
Who designed this game?
Right.
That's
Fill in the
hilarious.
blank. So this is one that I thought that you were going to like really knock out of the park.
Uh
So
oh.
fill in the blank. Night blank. Number one is night owl.
Are you kidding?
Nope.
Oh, that was a give me right there. I thought
Yeah,
it
but
was just.
it's
I thought that was too
NIGHT.
obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was too obvious. That did come to mind immediately. Follow your
So we're
instincts, people. Follow your
so
instincts. They're always right.
we've got night owl, nighttime, night
Yeah,
light, night life, and then a
right.
reason someone's face may turn red: embarrassed, angry,
Yeah.
sunburned, or bug bite. So
Oh yeah.
not too
There's.
shabby overall, though.
Okay, well, I feel better about my trivia skills than like Trivial Pursuit is a game that I just like. The reason why I'm not usually good at it is I don't retain trivia in my brain. I'm like I get into the hard, like weird, nuanced stuff, and trivia just doesn't register. So,
Yeah.
which is fine. I don't think that's really a detriment, except in this case, this kind of case. So, thank you. This has been great. I appreciate
Yeah, I've had a blast
it.
talking with you. Any place you want to direct people? Obviously the Kickstarter, but is there any
Yeah.
social media or anything like that?
Yeah, check out the Kickstarter, and I'm also on TikTok, uh, IG, Instagram, and Facebook if you want to check it out. I do have a website, nightowl.games, night owl spelled with a K, and you can check that too. But primarily, yeah, do the Kickstarter, get in there, and I'm asking people like not just if you do sign up for it, let somebody else know, because if everybody else lets one other person that would be interested in this know about it and they also sign up, that's where Kickstarters can make their goal really easily, is when people that are investing become participants in the process. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's really important to have that community of,
Mm-hmm.
getting the word out there. The word of mouth is huge.
Yeah. So that is, yeah, I'm learning that that the backers are critical for this. Like you getting them in there, but then later on, you don't stop for that whole month. You are continuing to build it even bigger, because bigger is always better with a Kickstarter. The more you get, the better it is, and then you're building buzz for the next time, right? You're the next Kickstarter you do. There's more people that know about it. So sign on as many as you can. Absolutely.
Yeah, because then you're getting a fan base. You're showing that, hey, I can
Mm-hmm.
design a good game. I can deliver the product like I said I would, all of that. So you
Yes.
start building that trust within the community and everything.
Yeah. 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 It's all about trust and earning that trust. So, and I feel like have a game that's pretty well finished when you start. So all your tweaking is some like cosmetic changes at the end, and people can feel more confident about it. They're like, oh yeah, that's ready to go right off the bat. So yeah, it's been quite a journey.
All right. Well, Paul, I appreciate the time. I'm looking forward to it. I've backed it. I think I was backer number 40.
Yeah, I think so. I think you were 39 or 40. I remember seeing the list.
Yeah.
I'm always
So,
keeping an eye on it.
oh, yeah. You get the alerts right to the phone. You're just like,
Yeah.
oh.
Absolutely. Okay. Well,
All right.
thank you too. This has been a lot of fun, and I wouldn't mind doing it again sometime. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thanks.